Where is NOLA? What is this city? I've never heard of this city. It doesn't show up on a map. Never heard of it. NOLA. It's a fake city. There's not even a $9 bill. Hello everyone and welcome to Orf. My name is Philip and thank you for stopping by. It's an album review. We're taking our thoughts and our opinions and we're putting them on the YouTubes, and it's Suicide Boys with New World Depression. Suicide Boys is a duo that probably doesn't need much of an intro if you clicked on this video, but if you're still curious, these guys have been known for creating a unique sound, usually in the vein of hip-hop with some rock mixed in. More specifically, they've been described as punk rap, emo rap, trap metal, horrorcore. Really, the New Orleans duo has spent the last few years defining their sound as something you can always expect to have a bit of edge to it. However, on their most recent release that I listened to fully before this one, Long-Term Effects of Suffering, I felt like they were just sort of maybe resting on their laurels a little bit. I mean, presenting their iconic sound for sure, but at the same time just kind of going through the motions. But that wouldn't immediately destroy my expectations for this new record. After all, I felt the same way about Crash by Charlie XCX back in 2022, and yet her most recent follow-up, Brat, is currently a contender for my album of the year so far. So what is being offered by Suicide Boys on New World Depression? Is it a huge comeback and a return to form, or is it even more one note than their previous record, or is it something completely different? Well, unfortunately, one of the most defining things that I can say about it is that there's not much to say about it. In my opinion, we're at a point where fans of Suicide Boys that have been fans for years are gonna bump this record with little to no issue and will have plenty to look forward to on New World Depression. But for those who are not on the Suicide Boys wave at this point, there's not much here that's really gonna get you hooked. Yeah, as far as changing it up goes, there's really not much of that here. So I definitely wouldn't classify any of these tracks as bad, just at the same time they are nowhere near game-changing. The song Are You Going to See a Rose in the Vase or Dust on the Table is a pretty good attempt at mixing a melodic sound into your standard Suicide Boys track, and I get kind of the same vibe on The Light at the End of the Tunnel for $9.99 a month as well. And I actually love the closing track on here despite the verses being so short. However, all of the other more melodic tracks on here just kind of drag on a bit too long for me. In fact, one of my biggest problems on Long-Term Effects of Suffering was that most of the tracks and ideas got very old very quickly. And that seems to be a recurring theme on here, even in their louder, more in-your-face tracks. The mix is strong as expected from a Suicide Boys record, however the production of the beats and the synths basically stays flatlined for the whole record. It's as if all the beats on here were made from the exact same FL Studio template. The lyricism, again, is what you'd expect from Suicide Boys for the most part. To me, though, in their more harder-hitting tracks, it gets a bit more cringy than usual. You know, coupled with the fact that this thing is only 34 minutes long, if you shuffled the entire album, it would not change the experience at all. You could even take most of these songs and throw them into another Suicide Boys record, and it probably wouldn't change the quality of that album either. This album just kind of exists. So if you're a longtime fan, you'll probably be more than happy. But if you were never a fan in the first place, this isn't going to change your mind. Me, I'd rather put on the likes of I Wanna Die in New Orleans. And in the meantime, I think Suicide Boys should try something different. You're already playing to crowds of millions. Why not take more of a risk on the next record? So for me, New World Depression gets a solid C. A perfectly average Suicide Boys album that isn't going to draw a lot of attention from fans outside of this scope, but does give the current fan base plenty to snack on. So those are my thoughts, but I'd love to hear yours. Throw them in the comments. I will read everything, I promise. And with that said, I hope you all have a fantastic evening. Stay safe out there, and I will see you in the next video. Goodbye, and see ya. Depression.